She promised to change the world with a single drop of blood, yet it turned out to be a bloody lie. This is Dark Crimes by Women, where we explore the minds of women who stepped beyond the line between genius and deception. Tonight, we will dive into a story of a woman once known as the next Steve Jobs. A woman who promised to change medicine forever. But her empire was not built on blood. It was built on lies. The story of Elizabeth Holmes and the bloody lie that fooled the world. It's early 2000 in Silicon Valley, a land of visionaries and ambition. From Stanford University emerges a very young student. Very good-looking, blonde, always dressed in black, and with a deep voice. She wanted to change the world. Her idea, a small machine capable of detecting hundreds of diseases just from a drop of blood. An incredible discovery if only had worked. She calls Theranos, a fusion of two words, therapy and diagnosis. Investors called it revolutionary, doctors impossible, but she called it the destiny. Elizabeth Holmes was born in 1984 in Washington, D.C., to a very ambitious, well-off family. Her father worked in the government and her mother in politics. Since childhood, she idolized inventors such as Edison and Steve Jobs, dreaming of one day becoming like them. She was admitted to Stanford, one of the hardest universities. Only the 4% of applications make it through. But she did it, and at Stanford she studied chemical engineering, but soon realized that she didn't want just to learn, but she wanted to create. At 19 years old, she dropped out to start her own company. She had no experience, but she had a great charisma and an obsession for success. Theranos was born in 2003 in Palo Alto, surrounded by secrets and ambition. Her idea was simple, yet visionary: to create a technology capable of running hundreds of blood tests using just one drop from a fingertip. With the help of a Stanford professor, she created this machine, called it Edison. Holmes claimed that the device could deliver results that were fast, affordable, and painless, drastically reducing costs and making diagnosis accessible to everybody. Of course, her idea caught the attention of investors and politicians. Driven by ambition, Holmes refined her prototype and presented it at International Medical Technology Conference. Her presentation, of course, sparked a great excitement. Experts began to call it a revolution in diagnosis. They were not scientists, but they believed in her. By 2014, the company was valued at nearly $9 million, and Elizabeth Holmes was 30 years old and the youngest made female billionaire in America. She was on every magazine covers, a visionary. But inside the Theranos labs, the truth was very, very different. Behind the sleek glass walls, Theranos was not a high-tech lab. It was a stage set for illusion. Everything was designed to impress. Cold lights, white coats, and an air of futuristic promise. But behind the perfect facade lay chaos, completely chaos. The miracle machine, the Edison, was a technological disaster. It leaked blood, was inconsistent, result was not accurate, and broke down constantly. Every test was a gamble, every result a potential error. Yet Holmes kept presenting it as a revolution that would change medicine forever. Theranos was an illusion, a story built on secrecy, fear, and very good marketing. Employees knew things were not working, but speaking up meant losing their jobs. Investors, captivated by Holmes' charisma and promises, poured in millions without ever seeing a real result. Holmes even managed to strike a deal with Walgreens. The concept was simple. Everyone could walk in Walgreens without an appointment, pay just a few dollars, and get their blood test results within minutes. What was meant to be a revolution became one of the greatest deceptions in modern history. Former employees described days filled with panic and silence. Data was altered to appear correct. And if a result was wrong, it was repeated until it looked right. When investors visited Theranos, Elizabeth Holmes staged elaborate shows. Dimmed lights, locked doors, a machine that looked futuristic but didn't work. In reality, this is the future of medicine. And because she was a very charismatic person, everybody believed her, enhanced by her calm, hypnotic presence. The secret atmosphere only added the illusion of exclusivity. Visitors left fascinated, unaware that behind the scenes lay fraud and manipulation. Holmes was a true master of deception, able to convince anyone that her business was legitimate and groundbreaking. But the truth was destined to surface, of course, exposing one of the biggest financial scandals of our time. Inside Theranos, silence was law. Teams were isolated, forbidden to communicate to each other. Those who asked the questions were fired immediately. Emails were monitored, security was everywhere. The atmosphere was very, very tense. One employee said it felt like a secret military base. Whistleblowers were immediately terminated. Only a few dared to speak up. Erica Chung and Tyler Schultz, the grandson of George Schultz. Tyler said, watching my grandfather defend her, knowing the truth, was heartbreaking. But Elizabeth kept denying everything, convinced to her belief in the Edison. I think she wanted to make it work, that she deeply believed about this possibility to create this machine. Maybe it was her determination, maybe she was delusional, I don't know. But she had gone too far at this point to turn back, trapped in a lie too big to stop. And yet she kept going. You guys know the saying, you don't fail when you lose, you fail when you stop trying. Well, Holmes never stopped. Under immense pressure, she managed to stay composed, a sign of both genius and madness. Anyway, a brilliant mind. Wasted, but she had a brilliant mind. Holmes was able to sell a dream, She promised spectacular innovation. She spoke calmly, almost in a hypnotic way. The richest people in America lined up to invest and to be part of this project, such Rupert Murdoch, 125 million. The Walton family, Walmart, they invested 150 millions. Then Larry Ellis, Betsy DeVos, George Shultz, and many more. In total, she raised $700 billion. I cannot even ask $50 to my friend, and she raised $700 billion. Absolutely insane. Theranos was worth $9 billion, and Holmes herself, $4.5 billion. Mind-blowing. But no one had ever seen the machine truly working. And I'm talking about observing the machine taking the blood sample, analyze it, and provide the result. Because the investors, during the visit to check the progress of this machine, between the blood extraction and the delivery of the results, they were entertained in a different room for refreshments, allowing the employees to manipulate and create false reports. In this way, the trick was accomplished, and the investors, upon returning into the room, they were pleased with what they had witnessed and seen the result from the machine, unaware of the deception. So the illusion was complete. But as doubts began to surface, Holmes brushed them away with one calm sentence: trade secrets. And everybody applauded. When the media began asking questions, Holmes doubled down on secrecy. Reporters were desperate for answers, but nothing leaked from Theranos. Employees signed a strict NDA, non-disclosure agreement, under threat of legal action. Investors received glossy reports full of vague numbers and misleading graphs. And her charisma erased all doubts. She didn't just hide the truth, she reinvented it. She knew that in the world of innovation, people prefer to believe in dreams rather than face the reality. And she used this concept at her advantage. But in 2015, Wall Street Journal reporter John Carreyrou received a tip. Former employees revealed everything. When the article was published, it was an earthquake. Authorities started to investigate. Walgreens dropped immediately the partnership. Patients filed lawsuit. The empire collapsed very, very fast. Elizabeth Holmes, once Silicon Valley's golden goddess, was now an impostor. Her trial began on August 31st, 2021, in Santa Clara, California, after being charged for fraud in 2018 alongside her partner, Sunny Balwani. Prosecutors call it a colossal fraud. The defense claimed she was manipulated by Balwani, but emails showed she was in control of everything. In 2022, she was convicted on 4 counts of fraud and conspiracy. The sentence, 11 years and 3 months in federal prison. As for her personal life, in 2019, Holmes married William Evans, heir to the Evans Hotel Group. They had 2 children, a son, William, born in 2021, and a daughter called Invicta, that in Latin means invincible. born in 2023. Her son was born just before her trial, her daughter right before she reported to prison in May 2023. Evans now raises their children alone, visiting Holmes twice a week. Theranos vanished, but her legend and her shadow remain. Elizabeth Holmes never killed anybody, but her lies wounded trust in science and in humanity. She wanted to be a legend, and she became one for all wrong reasons. She built a temple of glass and ambition, and when the first crack appeared, it all came crashing down. Elizabeth Holmes promised a revolution in a drop of blood. But in the end, it was only a bloody lie. I am Marielle, and this is Dark Crimes by Women. If this story captivated you, subscribe and watch my episode on Eileen Wuornos, the woman who turned a Florida highway into her hunting ground. Another dark mind, another disturbing truth. See you next Wednesday, always in the darkness. Bye.